Hello, and welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. Today I'm joined again by Jacob from the Rise to Liberty podcast. We are on part 7 of Who the Fuck Are the West Memphis 3. Today we'll be going into the second half of the common arguments for innocence for the aforementioned West Memphis 3. With that, we'll go ahead and get into this episode. If you like what you're seeing here, to be sure to hit that like button, do all the things, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when we're going live and we're dropping new videos. We'll see you in the show. Hello, Jacob. Pleasure to be joined by you again today. I guess we can go ahead and roll right into it. Between this episode and the last, they're kind of smooth transition from one to the other, so why hem it up any more than we need to? Let's go ahead and roll right into it. Let's get into the second half of the arguments for innocence for the West Memphis 3. I think we're going to be starting off with a little bit of a classic, probably the go-to that seems to be everybody's basic conception of the story of, oh, they're just into the old black metal and all the heavy metal stuff, and wearing satanic T-shirts, and they scared all the nice church ladies in their area, essentially. So I guess let's roll right into that.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if we'd touched on that one, but even if we did, let's just do it again, because it actually is like the argument that everyone makes. It's the first argument that everyone makes after they watch the documentaries and everything. So no reason to not cover it again if we've already covered it. I know we've talked about it at some point, but thanks for having me on again. I'm excited to get this portion of it wrapped up. So this is basically the argument, like I said, that everyone has made at some point if you were on that side of this argument, and that's they were targeted by the police or by the community. They were targeted for wearing black T-shirts and listening to Metallica. Like, that was the big thing, Metallica. They could have picked scarier bands, honestly, like Slayer or somebody. I don't know why Metallica, but doesn't really matter. So the claim officially is that they were just outcasts living in the Bible Belt who dressed different and liked heavy metal. Small town prejudice convicted them, not the evidence. And this kind of ties into the satanic panic thing, but we'll get into that argument, or we already got into that argument. Let's see here. So, excuse me. Issue number one with this argument is that lots of kids wear black. Like, this is the 90s. That's just kind of, black was a thing. Like, it really was. I'm not sure everyone's age of your audience, but I'm sure some of them were kids in the 90s. And if you guys remember from back then, they were kind of just popular as they are now. I don't think that it's ever really gone out of style. Maybe like the cut of what type of clothing, but black clothing amongst teenagers has always been kind of popular. So, I mean, it's a bad argument. They weren't arrested based upon that. The difference with Damien, Jason, and Jessie, they were first questioned right after the murders, and we've talked about that. but then they were kind of left alone. However, they were still suspects. They ended up getting interviewed again and were ultimately arrested for many things. But the difference between these kids and any other kids that just wear black and listen to Metallica is that with all three of them, there was documented cases of violence, of course, the confessions, knowledge of crime details, which they should have not had at all. There's no way they should have known this. Failed alibis, witness statements pointing the finger at them, multiple witness statements, not just like one or two. And these people weren't, like enemies of them trying to get back or whatever. So there's multiple witness statements from multiple people. And then there's the physical evidence, which we have addressed before. So yeah, I just don't understand this argument necessarily. It is a good argument if you don't know anything about the case. And also looking at the framing is really important because this is coming from Arkansas. And when this documentary, the first documentary, Paradise Lost, was presented, it was presented to coastal elites in California, like super liberal. So, they hear anything related to religion and they're just going to automatically assume that it's correct because religious people are bigots. And, it makes sense why this argument caught on, at least to me, it does. But
I think there's a little bit of truth to it too. I know you kind of, I don't know. I guess I wasn't like I wore a lot of black growing up, but I know like in the 90s, like the weird kids at Hot Topic, you were to some degree they were shunned, especially among some of our Bible thumping elders. But I don't know. It does seem a bit overplayed here. Right. And there's a little bit of difference between just wearing black. Like black's like my main palette main color that I wear. But like the goth kids would also then wear like the baggy pants with lots of chains and stuff. So it was kind of like a certain clothing style too. But even then, I don't know, it does seem a little overblown for the 90s. Like even I grew up in rural areas. Like, yeah, I mean, they'd be like, it might like kind of under muttered breath kind of be like, look at those queers type thing. But like, it wasn't that big of a deal. I don't know. Right. It does feel a little bit overblown, but I mean, who knows? Maybe
right. So
maybe that area is way worse. So
you were a bit of an alternative kid, right?
Yeah,
So, and this is, I think, a really important lesson about propaganda, though. Why I wanted to bring this argument up is just because there is precedent, like you mentioned, like, so if it were to happen, there are certain people that wouldn't be surprised at that because I mean, I was a goth kid. I was a Satanist, I've been dumb in moments of my life. So I've definitely been like accosted for being an alternative kid. That's not the problem with it. It's, they were arrested for murder because they wore a black t-shirt and listened to Metallica, right? Like, of course I've had, church-going people get after me because I have tattoos and I smoked or whatever. I've never been arrested for murder because I wore, a Cannibal Corpse t-shirt. So it's like, it's a big leap, but because of that precedence, of the alternative kids or the weird kids getting picked on by society or whatever, which is real and shouldn't happen, whatever, but it does seem plausible. So this is why I think it's like nefarious.
Now, I guess to give a little bit of, is there any truth to, I guess, profiling in that maybe perhaps, or stereotyping, which I don't even necessarily think profiling or stereotyping is wrong depending on the context. Like if it is because you're looking for a certain profile, then that totally makes sense. Right. Now, I guess if they were like, oh, we have, a couple murders, be on the lookout for teenage boys, really, teenage goth boys, that's weird to come to that conclusion. But if you had something that pointed to it, then perhaps there might be something to that, some piece of evidence. So, I mean, is there some, aspect of profiling here? How do you know how they got picked up in the first place? I mean,
first of all, Damien was on probation when, the very first time he was questioned. And in fact, it was his probation officer that called West Memphis police and said, "Hey, you might want to look at this kid because
so
of
it's
his
more that they were
violent
profiling
past."
them. It was really more that they were being profiled for being criminals, which than
Right.
for being
Right.
than for being I know, edgy boys. So
Right.
which
Yeah,
that
so
is once
because
again
they
to
were-
my point. That's perfectly fine. That's a thing that totally
Right.
makes sense to profile somebody for, like, under their previous behavior.
Right.
So-
So this is why I bring up the history of violence. So based upon the history of violence and the fact that the police already are familiar with these people is a reason for the police to question them. Like, if you don't want to have that reputation, stop doing stupid shit. Like, stop breaking the law, asshole. Like, it's when you live that sort of life, like, even if you give it up, if you have a record, cops are more likely going to search you than somebody who doesn't, like, I'm sorry, that's how it works, but it's how it works. And so, yeah, I do think that there was a bit of prejudice toward, or not prejudice, but a bias towards that is what I meant. Where
a logical bias, though.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not unjust. Not at all. And being questioned by the cops. I mean, I've been questioned by the cops, not in a murder case, but thank God. But, I just don't understand, like, the whole, like, "Ooh, poor them," like, I don't know. I think it's just coastal whiny liberal shit, honestly, because they're blaming the Christian. And also, we got to remember 1993. So this is, like, kind of at the height of the end of the panic, right? So people are really tired of, like, the uppity Christians and stuff, So that's really what it is. The issue number 2 with this, and we'll just cruise through the rest of these real quick. Issue number 2 with this argument is that Paradise Lost created this narrative. This is where the argument came from. The argument of convicted for being different narrative comes primarily from the HBO documentary, which focused heavily on their appearance, minimized the confession details, downplayed their violent history. In fact, it didn't even mention their violent history at all. It ignored the witness statements, created sympathetic portrayals. It emphasized outsider status. And so the reason why people have the attitude about this case is because of that documentary. Like, it is one of the best pieces of propaganda that it was so successful that we are still doing we're doing a show about this and about the arguments that people make because of a documentary made in 1994. Like, that's how good it is. Now, once you know the truth, it's just lies, but it is a beautiful piece of propaganda, and it was very successful. Let's see. Issue number 3 with this argument is evidence would convict regardless of appearance. So even if they dressed in suits, if they looked like Wally from Leave It to Beaver, they would have been convicted either way. So if Damien, Jason, and Jessie had looked completely normal, preppy clothes, short hair, popular kids, the evidence would still be 8 confessions with accurate details, knowledge of autopsy results before the public. Well, actually, knowledge of wounds. That's a typo on my end. Knowledge of, like, the wounds and certain things that had happened at the crime scene before the public and even before the police. Failed polygraphs, 0 alibis, failed alibis, physical evidence linking them, multiple witnesses hearing admissions, documented violence. I mean, either way, they were going down because they're guilty. It's just, I don't know how to say it any clearer, The last issue with this argument that's important to bring up is the different narrative ignores the victims. This argument makes the defendants the victims of prejudice while ignoring Christopher Byers, Stevie Branch, and Michael Moore. These are the three kids that should be focused on this. We should be able to say the West Memphis three and know those names, not the other three names. Like the fact that they've reached like minor celebrity status is insane to me. Like there's no reason why we should know those three, I don't even know what to call them. Just three men. Like there's no reason we should know their name. We should remember the other three boys' names.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, those are the problems with this argument. So to wrap up on that, Paradise Lost created a very powerful narrative. Innocent outsiders persecuted for being different. I understand those reasons. And I understand why that resonates with people, especially anyone who was an outsider. We've all felt like outsiders at one point, but that emotional connection can't override evidence. And also that emotional, it's really an attack like that pulling on your heartstrings should tell you that that's propaganda, because when they're trying to get you upset about something, they're trying to make sure you don't think. So small town prejudice doesn't create 8 confessions with accurate crime scene details, doesn't create knowledge of autopsy results. It doesn't explain why Jesse gave away his shoes, why he hurt those boys, quote unquote. The different narrative is emotionally compelling, but it's not factually accurate.
All right, and so that's all on that one. I guess I think we got a little bit more to go into Bill Byers. I think you even brought a video for us today. But right. Let's go ahead and get to that. And we talked a little bit about that's one of the arguments for innocence, that Bill Byers had more to do with this.
John Mark.
Did I say?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I got people mixed up. But yeah, go ahead.
So this argument is that, the last time we had talked about John Mark Byers being the murderer or like being in charge of the three.
Oh, I was talking to a Bill Byers recently. I just realized where I mixed up. I was there's a guy I was scheduling for the show named Bill Byers. Okay. I was like, what? Where am I mixing this up? Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Mark Byers.
So John Mark Byers, this argument is important. So this is John Mark Byers' DNA was found at the crime scene, right? The official claim is that DNA testing found John Mark Byers' DNA at the crime scene, which proves he was involved. It doesn't, but whatever. It's also when you figure out that it was a hair that was found. I mean, that the boy could have picked it up because he had been at the house. A beard hair.
Which, I mean, for me and you, I mean, it just men with beards. I mean, I've had to stop. I used to, my whole life, I used to drink out of the, be like a heathen and just gulp out of the fucking the milk gallon, like a gallon of milk out of the jug. I've had to stop that recently since in the past year or so. I've decided to have a beard because my kids get mad when they find my beard hair in there, and I don't really have any good argument anymore for why I'm able to do it. So beard hair gets everywhere is the point. I mean, it's not so bad as like woman hair. Like my wife's hair ends up in crazier places, but beard hair has very similar phenomenon. So, I mean, if someone that you're near does some crazy, ungodly act, someone you interact with regularly, there's a non-zero chance your beard hair might be on them when it happens.
Well, of course, they're little kids. They're 8 years old. They're going to be rolling around on the ground and stuff. Like, say they're over for a sleepover. All 3 of them are going to be on the ground. So they're going to, roll across the beard hair and maybe it gets stuck to the clothing somehow. Like, this is such a common thing that I don't understand. And also, on top of all of this, hair evidence is not what they call it's not considered to be foolproof evidence. Anyone who is a very serious investigator will be like, that's one data point. It could mean something, probably doesn't mean anything though. So this whole one hair, it's nonsense. That it is not foolproof evidence because you can't prove that one hair actually came from one person. You can prove that it had similar DNA, but that's about it. So it could rule somebody out if it has not the same DNA. However, when they tested the beard hair, they were like, "Oh, it matches John Mark Byers." Well, what it actually means is that it matched John Mark Byers and 1.3 million other people. So they couldn't exclude him because of it, is like the whole point. And that, so when people make this argument, they take it and be like, oh, well, they couldn't exclude him officially, so he's guilty, you know?
Yeah, because this is pretty early in the early days of DNA testing, I believe. So
Right.
that's kind of another component that kind of made this take legs for this story. Is they, oh, we have this DNA evidence later, but it's like, yeah, but on like earlier science. So I'm assuming they were only able to, do some certain level of genetic certainty. So it was a match, but that doesn't mean 100% match. It just means like a match out of however many. And the same idea as having like the same blood type. And you're like, yeah, you and however many thousands of other people. So
So I mean, it's the difference between being able to say he was not involved and we cannot exclude him because of this. So, and that's a big difference between, him being guilty or innocent. So, yeah, the issues with that, obviously this is factually wrong. John Mark Byers' DNA wasn't necessarily found. It was a beard hair that is most likely his because his son's friend came over. Like, that's just what it is. Also, what's interesting about this, the DNA testing wasn't done on this hair until 2007. So, that's really interesting. So they could not exclude lots of people. In fact, the DNA also matched Terry Hobbs, one of the other fathers, Stevie's stepfather. And let's see, it also matched David Jacoby, Terry's friend. So, I mean, I guess any of them it could have been, it's not a good argument once again. So the second issue with this, secondary transfer is what they call it, is how they picked it up. That's how it was found on the shoes. So like they didn't find the beard hair in his stomach or something, it's like they found it on the shoelace. So
yeah, I'm like looking at my shirt. I'm finding cat hair right now. So I'm like, there's like, it's just
so your
everywhere.
cat's guilty now.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's a bad argument. It just really is a bad argument. Issue number 3 with this argument is the actual DNA results of this. The 2000 DNA testing that is often cited found mitochondrial DNA that couldn't exclude that couldn't exclude Byers. So this also couldn't exclude, like I said, Jacob Jacoby. Results were too weak to be presented in court, which is kind of a really important detail in this. Defense experts acknowledged the limitations, and it does not clear Damien, Jessie, or Jason. Issue 4 with this is that DNA doesn't explain confessions. So even if DNA had pointed to Byers, which it didn't, Jessie still confessed. Damien knew. Crime details, all 3 had no alibis. Witnesses heard admissions. So once again, it's a bad argument. So with that, let me get this clip pulled up because the DNA stuff, it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but this is something that we can pull up. Somebody else that has like gotten all the documents and made a presentation about all of this and stuff. So let's see, where is it? There it is. Okay, sound on. There we go. Okay.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 3 of this West Memphis 3 series. I'm Fig Sauls. In 1993, 8-year-olds Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore were found murdered in West Memphis, Arkansas. All 3 boys had been beaten, tied up, and thrown in a drainage ditch. 2 drowned and 1 bled out before ever hitting the water. A month later, after a confession, police arrested 18-year-old Damien Echols and his friends Jason Baldwin, 16, and Jessie Misskelley, 17. The 3 were convicted of the murders and became known as the West Memphis 3. From the start, there was controversy over their guilt.
Okay. Where is the evidence? Let's see. Here we go.
Damien Echols. It was DNA that was found on one name.
So
This might come as a surprise to some, but there was actual physical evidence at the crime scene that points to Damien Echols. It was DNA that was found on one of Stevie Branch's ligatures that turns out to be consistent with Damien Echols. In 2007, Damien Echols' defense team hired Bode Technology to do some DNA testing. You could find this report buried on the Callahan website, or our friends over at the Prosecutors Podcast were kind enough to post it right on their website. So you could grab these reports here. I'll link it in the description. So this is the report. Now, what sticks out here is number 3, which states a mixed partial DNA profile consisting of 4 or more reportable loci was obtained from the following evidence item: Branch combined. In forensic DNA testing, labs examine a standard set of markers, loci, commonly 18 of them. At each marker, a person has 2 alleles, which are variants. If a suspect shares at least 1 allele at each marker with the evidence, he or she cannot be excluded as a source of that DNA. The mixed DNA from Stevie's ligatures included multiple alleles at certain markers. For example, at D5S818, one standard STR marker, the ligature profile showed 3 alleles, 10, 11, and 12, so we know this is a mixed sample. Stevie Branch's own DNA has allele 10 and 12 at DS5818, which is inherited from his parents. So those 2 alleles are accounted for. But that leaves this number 11 allele, which is a mystery. Who did it belong to if not Stevie? Now let's bring in Damien Echols' DNA profile to compare. At line 6 here in this table, see Damien Echols' DNA shows markers 11 and 12. The DNA mixture on Stevie Branch's ligatures shows 10, 11, and 12, which shows that it's mixed because there should only be 2 numbers here. But the fact that Damien has 11 in his profile means that Echols could explain the extra 11 markers seen in the mixed sample, especially since both he and Stevie share the 12.
Right. So this isn't like he did it, but it's he cannot be excluded by DNA evidence. So I mean, it is a big deal.
Yeah, people think DNA evidence is further along than it is. It's like, this is what I like. For example, we do DNA testing on our cats for our cat breeding because there's certain conditions they can get and stuff, but you're only focusing on one allele. For example, even the condition that we're trying to wipe out, that's a heart condition, we check them for, but even then it runs along multiple alleles. There's so many, so like we're only able to reduce the occurrence of said genetic, whatever, that can cause that, only along one allele. There's still multiple other alleles that they have not identified. But even then, it's the point being is just like even in 2026, the degree to which we're limited. I don't even know if they even have the whole genome, mapped at this point. I mean, I think they might, but I remember that was like a whole thing growing up, is they were like, they hadn't even like, they were still working on mapping the human genome. So I think that I vaguely recall that being a thing at some point, but point being is like, there's still quite a bit of limitations when it comes to this.
Right. Yeah. And it's not 100% in either direction, but this is a big deal because like he said, there should only be 2 alleles where there's 3. So there's a mixed sample. Damien has the 3rd one that shouldn't be there. It doesn't mean that he is the 3rd one. It means they can't say for sure it's not him. Yeah. So like I said, that's a big deal when you're trying to prove your innocence.
On line 7, the ligature sample contained markers 8 and 11. And Echols' DNA profile also has 8 and 11 at the same location. That's another consistent.
That's really bad for him.
12, this is the male-female sex marker. The ligature sample came back XY, confirming the DNA came from a male, which is also consistent with Echols' profile. He's a male. So putting it together, extra alleles match Damien Echols' DNA profile. In other words, Echols' DNA fits the unknown part of that mixture. He cannot be excluded as a possible contributor to the ligature DNA found. So
to be clear,
short,
cannot be
labs
excluded among multiple along multiple alleles. So it's not even just one allele.
Right.
So
right.
it's not just one of these being like, oh, it's a match. It's just multiple, which becomes, once we get into
Correct.
the multiple realm, it's getting less and less
Right.
more and more harder to wriggle out of.
Right.
Yeah.
2007 report found that Stevie's ligature DNA is a mixed profile that includes alleles matching Damien Echols. Therefore, Echols cannot be ruled out. This contradicts the notion that no DNA evidence linked to Echols was ever found. So in the table, you will see some INC, which means inconclusive, or NT, which means not tested. And now fast forward to 2011, when they did more testing, and the reason why the West Memphis 3 are keeping those DNA results under wraps starts to make a little more sense now. They're likely reluctant to openly share those results with the public because if some of those inconclusive or untested markers from 2007 later produced results that matched with Damien Echols or any of the West Memphis 3, that would not be good. I mean, why else are they keeping them secret? If the results truly excluded the West Memphis 3 in 2011, we all know they would have publicized them immediately. To me, this also sheds light on why in 2011, instead of going forward with the retrial, Echols, Baldwin, and Misskelley approached the state with an Alford plea. If they had truly been exonerated by DNA, a retrial would have not only freed them outright, but they also could have sued the crap out of the state of Arkansas. But why they didn't was because the judge said that a retrial would have made all of the DNA evidence public, and it doesn't seem like they wanted that to happen. So instead, they pleaded guilty under the Alford plea and walked free with time served. Now, with the 2025 DNA testing that's supposedly going on, the defense seems to have to turn over some of those 2000.
So that DNA testing, as far as I know, is still happening, but they pushed it back. So it's going to be happening sometime this year. I don't know when.
2011 results. When they do that, they become public information because the state is working with Bode on the new test, and it's likely that they asked Bode for the old results to supplement what they had and to help them do comparisons. As you can see now, the prosecutor's podcast was able to secure 2 of the 2011 lab reports, and as you can see, most of the results just say no results. Again, this just points to the fact that the evidence over time has degraded so much they can't get anything useful from it. The only notable finding on there was from the shoulder area of Christopher Byers, this 13 marker right here. It comes from the shoulder area of Christopher Byers' white polka dot shirt. The 13 marker was identified at locus D8S1179. That's line 14 in the chart. And guess who also carries the 13 marker on that same line? Damien Echols. Of course. The second report the prosecutor's podcast released was another Bode technology report from 2011, again done for the defense. Something interesting I noticed was how the 2007 report used nuclear DNA testing, the kind that actually can identify an individual. And in that report, it showed that Damien Echols cannot be excluded from the mixed DNA found on Stevie Branch's ligatures. But by 2011, it looks like they switched to mitochondrial DNA testing, which is far weaker. Now, maybe it's just in these 2 reports, and maybe they did nuclear DNA testing in some other reports. But if they only did the mitochondrial DNA testing, that tells me that they're really scared that their clients will show up if they did anything more accurate. Also interesting, in the 2 reports that we have, instead of testing the evidence against Damien, Jason, or Jessie, they tested it against John Mark Byers, one of the victim's stepfather, and Roy Moore, one of the victim's father, both who had alibis, but they were clearly trying to find anyone else to blame. Meanwhile, the real science, the 2007 nuclear DNA, already tied Damien to Stevie Branch's bindings. And when you add that to the blood found on Damien's necklace that matched Stevie's blood type, now we've got DNA going from Damien to Stevie and blood evidence going from Stevie back to Damien. That's a big coincidence. So when people say there was no DNA linking the West Memphis 3 to the murders, they're just wrong. The defense's 2011 testing didn't exonerate them, and it likely showed that even more markers matched the DNA evidence than previously known. Now that that's cleared up, let's get to the video.
So yeah, that's
DNA heaven's not looking so hot for them. Yeah.
Oof. So, I mean, also that's why I wanted to show the clip, because I mean, there's just so much more I would have to do to get that, and it's already done right there. This is an important thing, and then we'll move on from this, but the type of DNA testing I think is really important for that to be pointed out. Like, why did they do the nuclear testing on one and then the mitochondrial on the other, when the mitochondrial is not as accurate, it's not as definitive? You know, like, why did you go to a weaker test? And it was their choice to do so. Doesn't quite make sense to me. So it's just, it doesn't look good. And the best point I think he made in that entire thing is that if those results did exonerate them, they would have been plastered everywhere. Like, it's just kind of how they are. It's how they've acted. And so the fact that they are still secret, other than what that podcaster was able to gather, just those 2 pieces of, or I guess 3 pages, everything else is still locked up by the lawyer. I assume hasn't been found anywhere else, and that doesn't make sense if it exonerates them, you know. So, all right, come on, stupid mouse, let's go. All right, so the next argument, which is a big one, it's Damien is not a Satanist or involved in the occult.
Okay. So, which we dabbled in this a little bit. I don't think we've gone too deep into the occult, but we definitely talked about it, and there seems to be, we think he probably was dabbling in the occult. Right. But I guess one of the arguments is that, no, that was just a scared old church lady seeing him in black and with chains and yada yada. But no, that's just, you guys just missed. Okay? Yeah, he just liked rock. So you guys are making all sorts of assumptions here. So
bigots. Okay, so the official claim, you know, is Damien's interest in Wicca and alternative spirituality is normal teenage exploration. He wasn't actually involved in Satanism or the occult activities. Now, the problems with this argument are as follows. Issue number 1 is that there are documented statements and patterns of behavior, like official documents regarding, you know, mental health doctors and all sorts of things. So Damien's own documented statements, which he made publicly very proudly, and his hospital records, like, for instance, so this is Exhibit 500 is what they call it. It's basically a collection of Damien Echols' mental health records, and it is very illuminating. One hospital record, a doctor had written down that Damien believes he's a vampire and openly worships the devil. Damien has fully admitted many times to sucking blood out of a peer's neck. It's a little bit dramatic, but nonetheless, he still did it. He didn't like suck blood, you know, but he did lick the blood off of a peer's neck, which is still fucking weird.
I don't think the sucking blood really works. I mean, I've looked into I mean, not that I was like with interest and more out of horror in the way we do is with vampires. Right. But like, I know what you see in movies, like, and you suck it, just like doesn't work. I mean, you kind of just got to lap up some blood. It's which is just, I guess, I don't know, not as cool, I guess.
Right.
Something's weird about licking someone to get the blood. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, it's anyways, when you're talking about vampires in real life, that's what you're talking about, not actual like and sucking out the blood.
Now, what's more important is what he said about the whole blood thing. And he said directly to a doctor, which is fully documented, that he drank the blood, and there were multiple blood drinking incidences. So there were incidents that he claimed. So he's telling the doctor that there were multiple times that he drank blood. And what he said about it was that he drank blood to feel like a god, quote unquote. Weird, very weird.
Normal teenage behavior, right?
Right. Yeah, just normal. Just listening to Metallica, bro. He had conversations with demons, which was documented in his medical records as well. He expected to be remembered like Charles Manson or Ted Bundy. And you can see that quote from him when he's talking about, I always knew I was going to be remembered. I just didn't know for what, but I'm going to be remembered as the West Memphis boogeyman, in his gay little voice. Like, why would you want to be remembered like that? That's so fucking strange. And it's at the very end of the first documentary. Once again, anyone can go watch the first documentary on YouTube. There's tons of people that have uploaded it. So go watch it for free. There are crime scene photos right in the very beginning. So just skip those. You don't need to see them. It'll just traumatize you. There's no reason for it. Also, psychiatric evaluations described obsession with death and violence. Odd. I thought he just listened to Metallica. So the other issues is the actual actions of Damien. So the actual things that he did, not just things that were said, whether you call it Satanism, occultism, or just extreme behavior, he killed animals and kept their skulls. He did drink blood on multiple occasions. That's not 100% like a Satanist thing, you know, but it's fucking weird. And it is extreme behavior. He did threaten ritualistic violence towards many people. Threatened to put spells and carve them up in ritualistic fashions and stuff. That doesn't mean like, oh, he's a Satanist, but that is extreme. He discussed human sacrifice with his previous girlfriend and his current girlfriend at the time. In fact, the girlfriend he had before Domini, the 16-year-old that he ran away with, they had a discussion, and she told the police this, that they were going to get her pregnant in order for Damien to sacrifice the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking weird, dude. Yeah. Also,
normal teenage stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's gone through a little phase, you know. He drew very violent and ritualistic imagery, which, I mean, I drew violent stuff too sometimes, but, you know, I don't know. It's compared with everything else. It just makes it look even worse.
Yeah.
Issue number 3 with this, Wicca versus what Damien actually did. Wicca is a recognized religion focused on nature and harm prevention. It's not how it's practiced, though. The man that like started Wicca actually praised Aleister Crowley. So I mean, it is a Crowleyan based or Crowleyite based belief system. So it has like, it preaches the idea of, you know, any harm done and it's going to like come back like a karma thing. Damien's behavior, though, he harmed animals like I just mentioned, threatened to kill family members. That was actually one of the reasons why his mom and stepdad put him into one of the mental hospitals, is because they were scared of him. So, like, terrified that he would actually kill them. So, because he was so out of control. He described wanting to hurt people when he was in with his doctors. And then all of the weird shit he did with the animal remains, like, doesn't sound like he's trying to prevent harm like, you know, Wiccan promotes. Sounds more like ritualistic behavior. So that isn't Wicca, that is violence. So the next issue is that it's kind of irrelevant to some of the strongest evidence out there for him or against him. Even if Damien had zero interest in occultism, he still knew details of the crime before the police did.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know for a fact. This is even like we're only jumping to a cult because it's just so absurd that like what the fuck, who would do this? So like even if there is no, even if you are like, oh well, he's not a Satanist, it's like, okay, well, all these other things, he still looks like he was a party to the murder of 3 little boys.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not illegal to be a Satanist. It's illegal to ritually, kill somebody.
Yeah. I guess what I was getting at is that we don't really know for a fact that there's any. We just kind of fill in the blanks, and that seems like the most logical thing is that this is probably some sort of occult angle to this.
I mean, I would say that there's strong enough circumstantial evidence to prove that he was at the time. I mean, it's blatant now. He's covered in occult tattoos, wrote a book about spells. I mean, he's an occultist. But back then, I do think that there is enough circumstantial evidence to prove that he was. But that doesn't actually matter in the context of the law. And that's, most Satanists are law-abiding people. So,
and even if you can prove there was somehow no occult angle to this, it's still like, well, then it looks like he murdered 3 little boys and sexually violated them and completely butchered them. So, I mean, maybe you weren't doing that to some supernatural entity or something. Maybe you're just doing it for funsies, but a little bit beside the point. But yeah, it definitely looks like it was probably some occult.
Right.
Anything more on this occult angle about like in the argument that, well, he wasn't even a Satanist?
I mean, not really, but I would just wrap it up by saying if he wasn't into the occult and okay, so if I got charged with murder, somebody called me a Satanist because of it, on top of it, whatever, and then I get out, try to move on with my life, I'm going to move so far away from the occult and have so nothing to do with it. If I'm not actually into it. He went the other direction. He went more into it. I think that's relevant. I think that is actually really important into the whole, he's not a Satanist. It's like, okay, well, if he wasn't then, he sure as fuck now. So I don't know. I think it is a relevant point. If he wasn't into it, why did he dive headfirst into it after he got out, All right, let's see. The next argument, the police didn't do their job. They just blamed these 3 and closed the case. So, there was public pressure. So the police were filling the heat.
Trying to, they need a suspect, and this is the easiest one. Let's close the book on this. That way we can get back to our lives type thing and make sure the public feels safe.
Right. So the official claim typically is that police conducted a lazy investigation, ignored other suspects, and pinned it on easy targets to close a high-profile case quickly. The issues with this argument is, issue number 1 is the investigation timeline. May 6th, bodies discovered. May 7th through the 10th, multiple suspects questioned. May 10th, Damien failed polygraph. May through June, continued investigation every single day. Like they created a whole task force for this investigation. Continued investigation, multiple witnesses interviewed. June 3rd, Jessie confessed after a failed polygraph. And we've already been through the whole Jessie thing. So June 3rd, arrests are made. So this is a month-long investigation, not a rush job. That's not quick. I don't understand what people like. Did they want the investigation to take 6 months? Like they did their job. And hey, I'm not like a super huge pro police guy either, but these guys did their job. It's just a fact. Granted, they could have done a better job. They did screw up many different times, but that's not the argument. The argument is that they didn't do their job. So issue 2 with this is that it was an evidence-driven investigation. Police developed suspects based on Jerry Driver's reports about Damien's violent history, witness statements placing them near the scene, Damien's suspicious knowledge, failed polygraphs, Jessie's confessions, verified details, physical evidence recovery. Like they weren't going to bring him in for nothing. Because that could have screwed up the whole investigation. That could have screwed up him being convicted if the police did anything to screw up bringing him in, or if they didn't have enough evidence, or like how they found the evidence. So yes, the actual arrest and everything was based upon the evidence that they were able to recover. Issue number 3, post-conviction confessions. After convictions, Jessie continued confessing, which I still don't understand. It's the dumbest thing ever. No pressure from police, nothing to gain, told his attorney. Consistent details. The next issue is that physical evidence was collected. So, like, the police did their job. Like, I don't know what people want. Like, they really did their job, and they did it as well as they could have. So, and honestly, I don't ever want to be in a position like that where I have an entire community pressing down on me to try and find answers about a murdered child. Like,
yeah,
fuck that. Like I said, I'm not a big pro cop guy, but man, I'm glad some people want to do that job, because I sure as fuck don't.
Well, it looks like they did. It looks like they did their job here for sure.
Right.
More than enough evidence came back looking like they done it, but we still got
Right.
people saying they didn't do nothing. What other
Right.
arguments for innocence we got out there? I think we got 4 altogether. Was there maybe 2?
Well, we got 2 more. Yep.
Okay.
2 more.
Yeah.
So, the court wrongfully convicted them based on Jessie's coerced confession and nothing else. So the claim, the official claim, is typically something like the entire conviction rests on a single coerced confession. Like, that's the only thing that got them convicted. And without that, there is no case. That's a stupid argument, but it happens a lot. Issue number 1 with that, Jessie's confession not used against Damien and Jason, period. Like, it wasn't. Go read the court transcripts. Issue number 2 with this, there were 3 separate trials. So Jessie's trial took place between January and February of 1994. Confession evidence, no alibi, witness testimony, Buddy Lucas, all of those things. Damien and sorry, there were 2 trials, not 3. I don't know why I said 3. Damien and Jason were tried together. Jessie was tried separately because of the confession. So Damien and Jason's trial took place between February and March of 1994. No confession evidence. Jessie refused to testify against those 2. My guess is that he was scared. Damien's statements and failed polygraph, physical evidence, witness testimony, violent history, all the other things that we have mentioned. Issue number 3 with this argument is that there's a pattern of evidence. The prosecution presented a comprehensive case against Jessie. I mean, once again, Buddy Lucas, failed alibis, physical evidence, 8 confessions. Well, at the time at the trial, it wasn't 8 confessions, but still, I mean, once again, I need people to understand that a confession or like a witness statement, these are primary source evidence. Like, this is some of the best evidence possible in a courtroom. So that's why it's such a big deal. And that's also why I keep repeating it too, because it's important to keep that in mind. Against Damien, of course, all the stuff they gathered from the police questioning, failed polygraph, multiple witnesses, no alibi, blah, blah, blah. Physical evidence, violent history. Same thing with Jason, physical evidence, the knife, the fibers. Well, the fibers don't really matter in my opinion, but it is something to bring up. No alibi, witness statements, suspicious behavior, and violent past. Also, he actually had some like weird knowledge too of things that he shouldn't have known about the crime. Although Jason, it was interesting. He didn't talk much at all. I mean, he's not a big talker in general, even now. Although when he got mad at Damien recently because they've had a falling out or something, I don't know, some like gay squabble or whatever, but Jason really went off and started talking now. So, all right, let's see. Issue number 4, the jury verdicts. 3 different juries, one for Jessie, one for Damien, and one for Jason, all found guilt beyond reasonable doubt based on different evidence presentations. I mean, that's so like the juries are wrong. I mean, they sat right there and watched the whole thing. So
3 separate juries.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's not even like 2 against 1 or what. No, all 3 of them.
And I think
it was
if I'm
almost
understanding,
unanimous.
if I'm understanding the information here, only 1 out of 3 of those they actually use said confession, as some sort of evidence. So far be it the far cry from that being the only thing that held this up. All right, I guess we just have the last one to knock out then. What one is that?
Yeah, and this is kind of a bonus argument, sort of, just because this covers like the 3rd documentary. But the argument is that Terry Hobbs did it. Stevie Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs, is the real killer. Seriously, like, go watch the 3rd documentary. That's what they were trying to do with the documentary, is pin it on him. Like, it's so crazy. So yeah, the claim is typically Stevie Branch's stepfather, Terry Hobbs, is the real killer. DNA evidence points to him, and he had a history of violence. The problems with this argument, issue number 1, weak DNA evidence. The 2007 DNA testing found mitochondrial DNA that could not exclude Terry, could not exclude David Jacoby, Terry's friend. Also could not exclude 1.5% of the population. So it's just a bad argument. But I think arguments like this are made because people don't understand just basic understandings of DNA evidence. The other issue is it's too weak to be presented in court, which is a big deal. Inconclusive results. So issue number 2 with this argument is that same 0 evidence problem. Terry Hobbs had no confessions, no witness hearing admissions, no knowledge of the crime before they were public, no failed polygraphs, no physical evidence placing him at the scene. DNA was inconclusive. There's nothing tying him to the crimes, at all. So once again, it's a bad argument, but they were trying to do anything possible to take the pressure off the 3 boys. Well, I mean, they were men at that point and are men now. They get the fingers off of them, pointed at somebody else. Issue number 3, the defense strategy. The Hobbs theory emerged when appeals were failing. So, misdirection. DNA results were inconclusive, like I said. Defense needed an alternative suspect, and Paradise Lost 3 focused on Hobbs.
So this is a Hail Mary at beyond reasonable doubt.
Right. And it literally was like the last thing they could have tried. And then finally, issue number 4 with it is that confessions still exist. Even if Terry Hobbs' DNA had been definitely found, Jessie still confessed. Mm-hmm. Jessie still knew Michael Moore wasn't mutilated, which is a big detail. Damien still knew details about the crime, like the boy was peed on, before the police knew. All 3 still had no alibis. Witnesses still heard admissions and pointed them or placed them near the scene. It's like people make these bad arguments for one, not understanding the legal process, not understanding like real evidence, and also because they don't know anything about this case. Like they just don't. These are the only type of people that argue against or argue for their innocence. Know nothing, or they're just complete liars. Like, I mean, especially if anyone's like watched all of these episodes of us talking about this. I mean, these are the facts of the case. I don't know how anyone could know this and be like, they're innocent. They were picked on. What?
Well,
You're a liar.
Well, we'll have to address some of those people in our next Q&A episode, which I don't think it'll be next episode. Probably the one after that. We should probably do one more on the actual what's going on here.
Right.
But it looks like we covered all the arguments for innocence today. Between this episode and last episode, I think there was something like 12 altogether.
There are more, but these are the
main.
These are the ones to focus on and actually do a show about.
Yeah, and if anyone like I said with these Q&As, get it in quick because with the way the paywall works, it may already be doing the Q&A episode before this even gets released. But I don't know, we'll probably be fine. But if you guys have any arguments for innocence yourselves, feel free to include that in the comments there on any of the different platforms, and we'll try to be sure to bring that up for the Q&A/comment section addressing episode here soon. But with that, Jacob, I guess we're good to get out of here. We'll do another one of these here soon. Let people know where they can find you, and we'll do another one soon.
Yeah, the best place anyone can find me, you can go to allmylinks.com/rise to liberty, or pretty much any platform. Just look Rise to Liberty. You'll see my little TV guy with the hypnotic swirl screen for a face, green black background. Or you can definitely check me out over on Substack. Make sure and go check out the Substack and subscribe. I have a written Satanic Panic article series that I'm doing right now. And it's going to be the most in-depth the most in-depth coverage that I've been able to find regarding the Satanic Panic. And in fact, it's taken me a little bit longer to get the next part out just because I've had to find so many sources to, link to all of this stuff. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And on top of that, I just, I've got maybe 0.1% things to do left on a companion to the article. It's actually I guess it's going to be a web page, but it's a scrollable timeline that kind of puts things into perspective. It'll be fully searchable. You can click on things and get more details, but it's going to be a companion to kind of visually compare everything and stuff for all of our visual learners like myself. So yeah, Beware the Mockingbird on Substack, allmylinks.com/rise to liberty, and shows Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh, yeah. For those who want to support what I'm doing, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well. On Twitter, that's at TerraGangJose. Everywhere else, that's the No Way Jose podcast. And then if you really want to support the show in the best way you can do that with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. Top left-hand corner, we got a QR code you can use as well. And at the low level, $2, you get access to early episodes. I try to do about 1 to 2 of those per week. Try to keep about 3 to 4 behind the paywall at any given time. And I give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed, give you access to Telegram, the pre-show, post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And also give a big shout out to Highest Love My Patreon, which is my sponsors. It's a big thank you for their support. At my previous Ghost and Tower Gang, at Leonard Toad. Also for at Brigade Deeds, at ZOVURCK, at _Infinite Zeal. Tim Tuttle, at John Klebold. Big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Texas, when I recover kids, no free lunch. Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Wintergrad of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. And with that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Love you all. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.